Army's going to post this. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, Blues. We don't
Happy
know
Christmas.
when, but this is something anyone who's watching that me and Dan have wanted to actually do for quite some time now, which is really kind of talk about our finances a little bit and why City have got this business model, this structure that we do. So, Dan, what I did a couple of weeks ago, and I know you've already seen this, but hopefully people can look at this as well. I used transfermarkt.co.uk as kind of my guide for taking a look at this. This is all of City spend plus a few of our competitors around the world since Pep took over. So from 2016, this is the spend. I've not taken into account any transfer budget in or anything like that. This is just the spend that we could have in. And, it's ironic. I kind of wish Pep hadn't said a couple of days ago in that press conference, when asked why is City so good, and his answer was, well, we've got more money than anyone else. It adds fuel to the fire. But what's interesting here, Dan, is that, of course, yeah, we spent hundreds of millions over the last 5 years, but we're not in first place. Juve
No.
are up there as well. Barca, which is, in my opinion, why they're in the absolute horrible mess that they are in now, are first in 931 million. I mean, that's just absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah.
Chelsea, if you look at the spend here over the last few months, they've spent an absolute fortune. They're only just behind us in terms of transfers in as well. One that really surprises me a little bit is actually Dippers. I mentioned there was that they seem to do a good job, Liverpool, of bringing in free transfers, decent players, like not just bringing them in for the sake of it, but yeah, they seem to be. You always seem to get a good deal there, and yeah, they've spent big money on Van Dijk and on Allison as well. But overall, I mean, for a Champions League winner and current Premier League champions, I was kind of surprised when I put this together how low they were on the spend. But really, what this points me towards, Dan, is what you and I have been discussing, and we obviously want to get City's thoughts on this as well. Is this whole Messi Haaland saga is just getting really, really boring for me. I don't think we're going to get either of them. I don't think we're going to get Messi because the money that we have to outlay for that is you have to have some hopeful promise that we're going to get that money back in merchandising and sponsorship rights, and there's no guarantee of that. And I don't think we're going to get Haaland because I think it's going to become a bidding war. Rayola's his agent. That's exactly what he's going to want to have happen. This is going to be 130, 140, 150 million. I can't see City, even with the spend that they've had over the last 5 years, they don't spend that kind of money on one player. They spend it on 50, 60 million pound. Well, we know that Haaland, if he goes this year, is going to go for significantly more than that. I think it's more likely that he's going to go to Juve or I know Chelsea are putting in. Sounds like they're going to put in a bid in as well. So, love to get your thoughts on this, Dan, and where you are with this whole striker saga, which is just annoying us all now.
Well, it's so much not so much who we bring in now for me. It's how we implement them. We can go for the Messis, we can go for the Haalands, we can go for the Malans, we can go for the older tall striker like Dzeko. For me, that's not the question now. It's how will Pep Guardiola implement it? We've got 2 years of Pep. He's now got the team playing like potential world champions, i.e., Champions League, Premier League, the whole lot, the whole shebang in one go in one season. And we've done that without pretty much a recognised striker. We're scoring goals, we're defending really well. For me, right now, it's how can we improve Manchester City, not on the basis of one player, but approaching the squad as a whole and getting depth. depth is the reason we are where we are right now. If
Agreed.
the thing with Liverpool and on your spreadsheet there was, for me, what highlights it is how little they've spent. Is because if you look at their squad, you take a lot of their first team players, first choice, Henderson, Van Dijk, Alisson, Salah, Mane, Firmino. You get those 6 players out, who've they got to bring in? Shaqiri, Origi, Matip, Gomez. These players, they haven't got depth. And that is the reason that they are failing this year for me personally. If they had a structure like City, you can pick any position that Pep would throw out there, any formation, any position in that formation, you can name at least 2 and sometimes 3, and in some cases 4 players who can play in that role. We went through a habit where that second season under Pep, when we won the first title under him, everyone was like, "Oh yeah, well he spent like 200 million on fullbacks." We had 4 fullbacks, I think, at one point. Mendy, Walker, Danilo, and there's someone else I can't remember. Right now, we've only got 3 fullbacks, and yet we're still playing. One of them's not even a fullback, so technically we've only got 2. Mendy's out the squad for good by the looks of things now. We've got Zinchenko filling in the role. Ake can play there when he's fit. Laporte can play there when he's fit. But Guardiola, and I like what Brian said on the podcast we did last night, Guardiola's changed his squad so that we play with a back 4, but eradicate the left back position. We don't have a left back. Cancelo was playing midfield most of the night, and he has done for a lot this season. And I think that's the same thing that he's done with the striker situation, because we don't play with a recognised forward. We play with, for me, from what I've seen, as a formation structure, is a 4-2-4 system with that front 4 in Foden, Mahrez, Jesus, Sterling, Bernardo Silva, Gundogan, Kevin De Bruyne. All those players can play in that front 4 section, and a lot of those players can fill in the void in those 2 midfield, in which we've got Rodri, we've got Gundogan that can fill in, we've got Fernandinho that can fill in, we've now got Cancelo that can fill in. We are just wiping the park with any other team because of squad depth. And that is where I think the money for us has been played very well, because we have long-standing players in our club, and we are not spending gazillions amount of money on God knows how many players. We've signed the odd one player here there that we need. Ruben Diaz in recent times, we needed that. And look what he's done to our back line. Ake came in, was stellar. Not sure what's happening with him right now. And to go on the point of our podcast that we did a couple of weeks ago, our discussion a couple of days ago with Brian. For those who don't know, we had a discussion on a Discord chat that me and Dave were sort of in the camp now that we have the squad that we're able to buy youth and implement them into the whole squad structure, get them playing game time. So when players such as Aguero eventually retire or leave, and such as it is other aging players like Fernandinho down the line, we've got players that have had a good season, young players that are more eager to learn at that stage, under arguably one of the best managers in the world to develop a player. It just fits right with the structure, rather than going out and buying 100 mil plus striker to fit in a team that might not even be suited to him, or the fact that we can't buy anyone else to fill squad depth because we've just signed that one player and we can't afford it anymore. And that goes into the Messi with the wages. We sign Messi. Think about the wages. We're not going to be able to afford anyone else.
Yeah, and it's so funny that City have done this, way before your time, Dan, and actually before my time as well. That they've had these occasions where they've brought in this absolutely huge player, and then he's disrupted the flow. With Steve Daly, for one, who was in the 80s. I'm going back. They bought him from Wolves. I think he was like 1.5 million, and he was a world beater. And he came to us.
A lot of money for the 80s.
Yeah, it was ridiculous. It was the highest. I think it was certainly the highest domestic transfer of all time. And then more recently, one who you might remember a little bit, and I was reading up a little bit about it the other day, was George Weah, who George Weah brought in. And
And you could argue he was way past
It
his
was at
best
the
at the
end of
time.
his career, but
Yeah.
again, he kind of disrupted. He didn't even play much for City, but he disrupted. He was this World Player of the Year. He wanted to play every week. He thought he should because he was World Player of the Year, and it was a disruption. I think he'd gone. I think he went to Chelsea on loan by the end of that season. It was just so. This is what concerns me again now, that we don't fall into that trap. And I'm in total agreement with you. I don't think we will, and I think that's where me and you and are really going against what Brian's saying. I know what everyone's saying about we don't have that Galactico signing, so to speak. I get that, and in order to be in that same bracket as the Juves, the Bayerns, the Rags, I get that. We need to have that massive signing, but I don't agree. I think what our business model is, and I think what we have done so well is we make talented players with experience into Galacticos. And the great thing is now we're not Arsenal. We're not making these. Nasri's a really good example of that. We're not making a great player and then selling them to Real Madrid or to Barcelona or whatever for 150 million. We're not that club. We are. I know we lost Zane, and I get that, and I think we should have got more for him. But by and by, what we are able to do is bring in talented 22, 23-year-olds for 50, 60 million who've got experience, usually international caps under their belt, and make them into world beaters, mold them, to your point, into a squad player who can play in a variety of positions. It's so funny, Dan. I live in America, as a lot of you will know, so I have to listen to the NBC Sports, but thankfully it's Rebecca
Not as bad as it used to be.
and Robbie Mustoe, Robbie Earl, but they started having Danny Higginbottom is a new commentator now, and I don't like him too much because he's an ex-rag and whatever else, but he talks a lot of sense. And he said, Dan, the other day, you ask any player this season who comes off the pitch when they've played City, and they've usually marked 4 to 6 different players.
Yeah.
So, and that just goes to your point of what you're saying is, we're that good and we have that much depth that it doesn't matter whether Zinchenko is playing left back or we can play him in centre midfield. We can play him as a false 9. We can play Foden in the centre mid. We can play him on the left, on the right, whatever. Other teams just don't know who to pick up nowadays, and that's a massive strength. And that's why, to your point, I'm not sure we're going to go. I don't think we're going to go after Haaland. I don't think we're going to go after Messi, just because, well, it's working what we have right now. So why not bring in those younger players on the budget that we have who can fit into the system that Pep wants?
Yeah, 100%. And that's I don't normally bring it up when I talk about. I'm going to use Marlon. You know my thoughts on Marlon. He is going to be one of the best strikers in the world in the next 5 years. That is guaranteed. The lad, for me, what I've been focusing on recently until I suddenly came to this sort of epiphany sense of, do we really need an actual striker? He is clinical in his finishing. He's starting to score lots of goals. I think it's like 21 or 22 goals this season already in about 32 games in total for PSV. And he is clinical. His shot to goal ratio is really small. I think it's about a goal every 2.5 to 3 shots, which, for City, that is massive if he can keep that ratio, if he ever did come to City. But the thing with Malen is he's got pace and he's got flair about him as well. So he can play as that centre forward. He can play positionally as left wing as well. He's versatile enough to play on the right, and he can pull back deeper into what Sergio's recently been doing under Pep, where he can drop back and claim the ball and then charge like Foden at players. So that's why I think a player like him, me saying this, I'm probably going to get slated, but a bit more towards Jesus style of centre forward. You can stick. He's not clinical, Jesus, so but the way he plays, he can play in a number of positions on
Yeah, he
that front
can.
three, front four. If you want to, if you're having a bit deeper, he can do it. Or he can play left back, so you can say five positions.
Hmm.
That is the type of striker Malin is, but he can score a hell of a lot more goals. And to go back to what we were talking about with Haaland, he's only got that one role. Yes, he's got pace, but he's a lanky sod. He won't make it out on the wing. You never see a tall winger at all. You name me the last 6'2" plus winger. There's very few, if any. And especially in the Premier League, you've got to be a fast-paced winner in the winger in the Premier League. You won't make it as a lanky sod. So that for me, Haaland is going to be that central striker, so he can't move anywhere else. So the defenders instantly know who to pick up, who to mark the most, and then you don't have to switch in a position. You don't have players cutting in. You don't have any of that. They have to stay to their own positions and play behind Haaland. And
Yeah,
for what Pep's doing now and the way we're winning, the way we're confusing opposition teams into making mistakes and not knowing who to pick up, that is gold dust, absolute gold dust. And it's one of them. I don't know if you felt the same, but it's, when you started picking it up and what Pep's doing, you're like, why the hell has no other team ever done this sort of tactic before? Because it just makes so much sense having a lot of players that can play in those positions and not having a focal player that the defenders can pick up, because they'll be all six and sevens about where to go. And that he did it sort of at Barcelona, but never sort of came through because he had Messi. You know, you focus on Messi and that's it. With City, we don't have that standout player. We did in Aguero, but Aguero's not been there. Now players, they're all rising to the floor all at the same time and all at similar levels as well. And I completely agree with you. Bringing a player like Haaland in or Messi will completely disrupt the flow of play, the tactics, and in my view, the dressing room as well.
yeah. I think this is. I really believe this is all media talk, and it's just all firing this up. I think PSG should be welcome to Messi. You know, from if that's to be believed that they've offered him 800 grand a week. I mean, that's that's just crazy. And at the same time as well, Dan, I don't know how they're getting away with it. Financial fair play, and we'll kind of get onto that as well. That's my other concern. We have beaten financial fair play twice now,
Mm,
and you know that we have a target on our back.
yeah.
UEFA would like nothing more than to bring City down. For some reason, I don't know why. It's not like we've brought the game into
We're not
disrepute.
one of the big boys, that's why.
Yeah, we're playing beautiful football. We have a wonderful coach, wonderful players. I don't know why we have this target on our back, but we do. If we were to go out and spend that kind of money or give Messi those kind of wages, they would be down on us so quick. And once bitten, twice shy. If they come after us a third time, there's no doubt in my mind that we will. Something very, very bad will happen to City. Why not keep things as they are going now, and keep within budgets? It's no one's got any money anyway at the moment because of this pandemic. When you see the likes of Real, who they've only spent $500 million over the last 5 years, that's unbelievable. They're usually spending that kind of money every year,
Yeah.
but no one has it. So I firmly believe there's going to be if Haaland says he wants to leave this summer, which it's likely he does. I think there's going to be a bidding war. Of course
Yeah.
there is, and I don't feel that City will get caught up in that. I really don't. From a financial standpoint and from a squad standpoint as well. I think you hit the nail on the head, Dan. This is all about if we have Haaland playing, well, we know, defenders know, that's how we're trying to get the ball to. I'm not saying he's not a great player, but in the system we're currently employing, I don't think he would work. Now, Messi, I think, of course, he would work as a false nine or whatever, but the wages are just astronomical. Then the money
Mm.
that he wants is just nuts and is going to put us into problems with UEFA again. So why go down that road? I think your idea of Marlon, or a young, talented 22, 23-year-old who's got experience bit of international caps under the belt. And I like Tixie because he seems to keep his cards very close to his chest. You know, we didn't know we were going after, you know, Rodri, and that kind of came out of left field. And all the talk was we were going to be getting this. Is it Jules Koundé from Sevilla?
From today,
That
yeah.
sounded like a deal. Well, no. What did we do? That was what all the papers were saying, and we turned around and got Diaz. You know, thankfully, who's been a revelation. I think the same is going to happen again. That Tixie's just going to say to the papers, you talk all you want about Messi and Haaland, and we're going to go behind all of your backs, and we've been studying Marlon or Nunez or whoever it might be, and that's who we're going to bring in.
Exactly, and we've got the history of that as well. You mentioned a few names to me on our private chat. With Edison has been one of them as well. Yeah. Nobody, including me, and I've watched a lot of international football. I knew about him briefly, but not enough for him to merit the first name in the team sheet in Manchester City's Pep Guardiola era. I knew he was a good goalkeeper, but I didn't rate him that much that I was expected for him to come in and do what he has done. And what a phenomenal signing he's turned out to be. And I was saying it to myself watching the game in midweek. It's Edison for me right now. He's developed so much as a goalkeeper. We knew he had the footwork, but in terms of goalkeeper and a leader as well, an actual physical presence at the back now, he's so much more mature over the past year. It's unbelievable. But at the same time, the level in which how young he was when we signed him and how little, I say for a goalkeeper, it's one of the highest, I think the second highest transfer fee ever paid for a goalkeeper. But in terms of the overall player transfer, it was one of the lower transfers of the bigger transfers. And he was still so young. And not only that, Pep's developed him into not only bringing in the goalkeeper that he wanted to bring in to make his system work, but he's made him so much better, and he's played him as part of the team now, which is going back to our Haaland Messi disruption thing. You take Edison out of that lineup now. I'm not saying Stefan couldn't do it, but I think we've come to know Stefan as a bit more of a shot stopper rather than good with his feet. It disrupts the flow of play because we can play out from the back. Edison got assists the other week.
That's ridiculous.
It shows it. It really does show it. And these players are going under the radar, such as your Rodri's, like you said. Yes, we spent a lot of money on Rodri, but he's really starting to show what that money is bringing. Because I said it midway through last season, I really love Rodri. And I've said it plenty on our podcast, haven't we? I seem to be one of the very few of us admins that raves on about Rodri having a really good game left, right, and centre because he's so underappreciated, because he's not Fernandinho, you know. But the way he's brought in, he was 22 when we signed him, was he?
I believe so, yeah. I think it's 22.
He's only just turned 24 now. He's a defensive midfielder. Fernandinho's 35. We've still got 11 years of Rodri to come. Under Pep Guardiola, the sky's the limit for him. And he was an under-the-radar signing. But he's also one of them that he can play it forward. He can drop in at centre-back. And that's the versatility that we keep banging on about that will work for Pep Guardiola. And if you bring in a player that can only play in that one position, and you can throw the goalkeeper in that position, Edison can easily one day play outfield. And that is the reason we are where we are right now, because we have that squad depth. Yeah. We've not got a sole player. A lot of people saying, "Oh, Kevin De Bruyne when he was injured, City, you're going to lose it now." We're playing some of our best football without Kevin De Bruyne in the team. Sergio Aguero, you might as well have transferred him out in the summer because it's been non-existent, and we're still scoring goals. Yes, it took time, but because we haven't got that single player, that main man in that team, the rest of them can flourish. Yeah. And that there's no argument. That you and me seem to be the only ones that are saying this stuff. It makes perfect sense, and there isn't an argument to it. Yet we seem to be the only ones saying it.
Yeah, I've got to tip my cap to Halifax because he called this at the beginning of the season. We struggled for those first 3 months. Yep. And he kept saying, lads, it's going to come down to the squad. It's going to come down to the squad. And He absolutely nailed it. And what I didn't see, and that's why I'm not paid £12 million a year or whatever Guardiola makes, is what I didn't see was
As little as that.
what Guardiola was doing was he was working on this new formation of the false. Basically, he's got 4 false nines playing most games because they all rotate so much. And to your point, why has no one ever thought of doing that before? Maybe it's because they just don't have the players. Pep Guardiola now has the confidence in those 11 who start the team that you're going to rotate around that pitch. And you might be playing left back 1 minute, you might be a false nine, you might be a wing back, and all the players are going, yeah, all right then, yeah, I can do that, absolutely no problem. But then you've got the Rodris, who I'm the same as you. I thought he was a good signing, and he's just got better and better. He knows what to do. I'm going to stick here. I'm gonna manage things. I'll go and help out the defense if I need to, and I'll go up when I need to as well. He's a phenomenal player. But what do I always say about these players who we bring in as well? It takes one season. Yeah. You won't see a new signing. If we get a Marlon or whoever in the summer, they will get 20 games next season. Torres is a good example as well. Yeah. They'll get 20 games. They'll look to see, okay, this is what I need to do to break into the team.
Can I just interject there? Foden is a good one for you as well.
Yeah.
Sorry, carry on. I just wanted to bring him.
They need to understand, we've bought you for your potential. We know you can do a job. We're not gonna throw you in that first 11. Mm-hmm. You're gonna have to earn your way in and understand the way that we need to play this game and rotate around. And Torres is a brilliant signing, particularly what we paid for him as well. I guarantee you will see more of him next season. But this year was all about him learning the ropes. It was the same with Rodri. Rodri only really got thrown into the lion's den because Fernandinho got injured. I'm sure Guardiola, what he really wanted to do was sit him on the bench and go, watch Fernandinho for the next 90 minutes, because this is what I want you to do eventually. But now we're seeing it, because now Rodri's had that time to understand. He gets it. The one that's kind of just blown everything out of the water is Diaz. For me, it's Diaz, because he's the one player who we've brought in and then go, right, you're playing right away. You're not going to have time to settle in and watch Stones or, Otamendi or whatever. It's going to be all about, we've bought you and you need to come in straight away. And that's surprising for a Guardiola signing, and he's done it. I mean, he's been absolutely phenomenal.
Well, to go on to Diaz regarding that, Halifax, and you know me, I'm typical Yorkshireman. I'm stubborn as they come. Halifax made a good point, and for some reason I just wouldn't agree with it, even though I know deep down he was correct, was regarding that extra season that we waited, because we have been interested in Diaz, but a lot of teams have as well. We completely disagree on how much he was worth at the time, but we both agree, and I think you interjected as well and agreed, that extra season he had at Benfica to become a captain and play constant first-team football and Champions League football, we have to remember. That extra season, I think, is what helped City being able to bring him in and throw him straight into the Wolves, into the Lions' den, because he's got that experience of leading a line now. And not only that, he's brought that to his game at City, and now the whole back line is doing the same. But not only that, we've seen it slowly emerging before Diaz coming in, the leaders in the squad. I think it was after Company left, all of us, when we first started doing these podcasts, we were all like, who the hell's going to be our captain? Because we could go through the whole squad and not a single name would really pop out, bar maybe Fernandinho at most. But we all agreed he was too quiet to be captain. David Silva, I think we all disagreed about him being captain, didn't we? I think he was only captain because of the player he was, and it was his last season. Agreed. That aside, there was nobody else that we could really pick. Now, we've got Diaz. You could say Stones at something. I've seen him very commanding. He's got a bit of a mid-street flair, but Walker could easily wear that armband once.
Easily be captain, yeah.
Edison's slowly emerging as one.
Yeah.
Sterling as well. He seems to be captain more than not recently, because Fernandinho has not been in the squad. There's just a whole host of players that now merit wearing that armband, realise that the armband now isn't what it used to be under company. That single player that demonstrated I had to have the band because I am the leader. Now you've got a full squad of players all on similar abilities in their similar positions that can spread out all on the same wavelength of managing the squad. And that is the other key for me, a reason we are doing so well at everything right now. I know you and me and Halifax and Laney all disagreed between ourselves about our back staff, and some of us wanted, myself included, wanting Tixie gone without actually thinking about what the hell they've actually done over the past couple of years. Ma is maybe the example not to use as well in that instance, but the way the club, and I'm just using Manchester City Football Club here, your favourite trademark that you'd wish we brought back, FC, just City alone. When we start to break it down in our little podcast like this that we need to do more of to break these things down, we start to implement and understand what it is they're actually doing and how well it is actually now starting to form, and we are head and shoulders above the rest. And that transfer spreadsheet you showed highlighted that 100%. You know, we're level on par with these teams, and we don't have to spend big bucks on a single player. We spend that money on a few, one or two players, just one or two players to fill in that squad depth. And if you look at our team, how many seasons have we sold first team players, 3, 4, 5 first team players in one transfer window? We don't. We have them for longevity, but we also have it where one player fixes that role, grows in stature, and we have that secondary player that's able to come in and rotate the team around as well. So when that player eventually leaves, we have that player to fill in a position. Yeah. The structure of it now is just spot on for me. Don't tweak it. Don't mess about with a marquee signing. Stick to what we're good at and what we now know works.
Yeah, it's taken a while. I know if you remember Mancini, he wanted to bring in reinforcements, and they weren't the right reinforcements. When he did that, he did another big spend after we won the title, and it wasn't right. It's taken 6, 7, 8 years to get this to the point where we are now. And yeah, we can't mess around with it now. Let's just keep going the way that we are going with this. And I'm excited to see who we bring in, because I know we will. But I think, again, it's going to be someone who we, or most City fans, are not expecting. And yeah, I tip my cap to Tixie. He's got this right. What I do want Tixie to work on is the incoming budget and making sure that when we do sell one of these players who we've made into a world beater, that we're getting a decent price for them rather than just kind of getting them off the books. That would be great. I would love us at some stage, to show that we can develop a £100 million plus player. And no problem with English lads. I don't want Foden to go, but if Sterling, who's kind of highlighted maybe that he'd like to play abroad, for Real at some point, I'm all for that, because I'm an England fan. I think that would better his game. But we want 150 million for him, and that's where I want Tixie to be more strong in the future. If we got one of these players who's got all this talent, well, let's get the right money for him rather than going, you know what, you can have him for 25. Like, no, let's be strong in these negotiations. So
100%. And Garcia is one of them as well. There was too much ooming and ahhing about, I know he don't want to stay, but we could still tempt him to sign a contract. He's not signed that contract now, and we've missed out. A small fee, granted, but 14 million is better than nothing, and we missed out on that now. That's where I agree. He needs to be a bit more heavy-headed, get the most value that is available to us, not suffer what's to come, or sit back and go, well, actually, yeah, let's just get him out because he don't want to be here anymore. Like your Sane, get his value. Sane, granted, he hasn't set the world alight like many people thought he would, leaving City going to Bayern Munich, but he's still worth a hell of a lot more than what we were given for him. I think it was only about 10 million more than what we signed him for. We left a massively better player than what we signed him for. So yeah, 100% agree.
Yeah, I think we signed what? I think 37, 38 million, and I think we got 42 plus, some add-ons for him or something like that. Bayern Munich got a hell of a deal there, but they always do.
Yeah.
They're just that team, because they tend to usually buy from the German league anyway, all the players, the best players from there. But yeah, they got a hell of a deal there. And yeah, he's not set the world alight, but he will. So
Yeah.
I was so excited when we bought Zane because I knew he was going to be an absolute sensational player, and still is. I think that's us wrapped up, Dan. I think that's it.
Yeah, no, we need to do more, and I think people listening, if they're still listening, I think what people want to hear more is these sort of podcasts where we do break down these structures and talk about the depth of them, because if I'm being perfectly honest, a lot more revelations have come out from us two just chatting for half an hour about this. That there's a lot of things that are coming to my head now that are like, hang on, that actually makes sense that he's doing that. And it's like the formation that was on about. Why the hell has nobody ever done it before? Because it's working. I think we need to do more breakdowns. Unless we're going on to youth academy fees, let's not do another one of that again. I can't go through that again.
Yeah, but that whole youth academy and whatever, that's part of the overall structure. And really, all I've ever said about that is that I wish that these lads would get a chance there rather than being loaned out immediately. I come back. I always use the example of Kuto with this.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we'll ever see that guy in a Manchester City shirt. He's in Girona now. There's no doubt in my mind he'll come back, pre-season. And, we've got Walker, we've got Cancelo. How is he going to get a game for us? So we may as well go out on loan again. And I think it's going to be an Angelino. I think he's going to be, this is a decent player, but he's not going to get in the City team. We'll sell him on. And for me, it's always been about, we spent 7 million on Kuto, raising to 14 if he makes his appearances for City. That's a lot of money to spend on someone who's never going to put on a blue shirt. And I'm just of the opinion that's more than you spend on a championship player. Like, if he's that good, surely you're going to give him a tryout at City and have him in the academy with Delap and Harwood Bellis and wherever else for a season. Gomez, who looks like he's kind of becoming the player we thought he could be now. Do that rather than signing him and then immediately going, right, you're off to Girona or you're off to Belgium or you're off to China or wherever. That's all. And that's for another podcast, but I certainly think can be looked at. Are we going to see Braff? Are we going to see Braff next year, Dan? Or is
the way
Braff,
it's sounding.
Is Braff going to be gone? He's been there a long time now. Are we going to see Delap? I'm not putting him in the same category as Haaland by any chance, but he's a very similar build. He knows the way City play already. Is he going to play more next season? And that's what I'm excited to see. Who we're going to bring in on budget and who's going to make that grade from the academy and from the EDS into getting a few games in the League Cup and FA Cup and all that kind of stuff. So
100%
exciting
agree.
time to be a City fan, isn't it?
Definitely. But it's a nice change of heart from the dark days.
It's absolutely night and day, though I miss the Kipaks and kind of going through all those emotions, week in, week out. And the United game honestly being the big game of the season, to get those bragging rights. Yeah, I mean, there's no comparison. Any City fan who kind of wishes for those days they're nuts, because the number of times I cried myself to sleep over City and what it meant to me, and my God, when are we going to win something? I mean, that 99 2000, our neighbours go and win, the Champions League, the Premiership, and the FA Cup, and we get relegated to the second division. I mean, really, you want to go back to those days? No, I'll take it as it is now. Thank you.
There's one part of me that would love a bit more of a different going back to them days, but just to be a little bit older than what I am now, just so I could have had one game at Main Road. I never went to Main Road, and the stories and the games and the history you hear from the place, especially from the likes of yourself, Brunty and Brian, you know, and Halifax, I think, has mentioned a couple. I'm not 100% sure. Just the stories coming out of that stadium and the games and the history, and you sort of miss it, even though you never experienced it, if you know what I mean. So
Yeah,
hopefully
it's
these good times make up for it.
the camaraderie on the Kipax was just absolutely something else. £65, Dan, it was for a season ticket for the Kipax when I started going. 65 quid. That that was it. And you know, you got your 19 games in a season, and then I think it was like £8 for an FA Cup game. You know, if you wanted to go to that, I mean, it was just absolutely nothing. And yeah, there was a real camaraderie there, which is lacking a little bit now. But yeah, where we are right now compared to 20 years ago, it's just absolutely night and day. And as I say, any City fan who kind of harks back to those days is nuts. It's just, we're an absolutely phenomenal team, and you know, and we're hated now, and I actually quite like that, because we were used to be this kind of, you know, oh, it's only City, that's a guaranteed 3 points, and now everyone craps themselves if they know that City are coming. So brilliant. All right, we will wrap this up. Thank you, Mr. Fielden. We'll get this sent to Tom and posted, and hope you enjoyed it, Blues.
All right, thank you for having me on. Good chat.
Take care. City till we
Take
die.
care.